Hello, and welcome to the 6th episode of the Jarred Up podcast. This is also the last episode in the series, and after this series, there will be another series, so that's good news. In this episode, we spoke to Lydia Stockbridge, who's the in-house booker at the Boileroom and has worked there for over 10 years. We've known Lydia for 5 of those years, and we spoke to her about the challenges of running a grassroots venue during a pandemic and the evolving Guildford music scene and how it's changed from when we all knew each other. Hello.
Hi. How you doing, man?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Lydia?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, not bad.
I want
at
to say
all.
that you're probably one of the first person to come in and immediately have your audio working, having your video working. You're winning on the technological level.
Thanks.
No offense to our other guests.
Oh,
How-
yeah. I've
how's
been listening to the other.
How's your
the
day?
other
How's your day
podcast.
been, Lydia? What have you been doing in this day of lockdown?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a grey, grisly day out there today, so I haven't been out for my daily walk yet.
Oh.
But it's been good. It's we're sort of been quite busy. We're putting together a series of live streams again for International Women's Day, which is fun. So yeah, just been kind of pulling all that together.
I was looking at the Boileroom page of that Boileroom TV, just having a little browse before I came on. It's very good.
Oh yeah.
It's very
thank
cool.
you.
I saw a lot of people. I saw my old workmate Benny P on there.
Oh yes.
That
yeah.
seems like an eternity ago.
I know.
And then was it Jamie Lemon you had on? I always when I say
Yeah.
his name, I think I've said Lemon, but it's Lenman. Yeah, Jamie Lenman. And then and then the two guys from Skunk and Nancy.
Yes. Yeah. Mark and Erica. Yeah. Really insightful conversation actually with those guys. Chatting mental well-being and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think is so important at the moment.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
These kind of these I don't know, TV programs and I don't know, just insightful conversations to get you to just take you away from everything for a little bit. Hopefully something like this,
Yeah, absolutely.
So why don't you tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, what's your role at the Boileroom?
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Go for it.
So I I'll be celebrating my 10-year anniversary at the Boileroom this July, which thank you.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit weird considering we haven't really been able to work normally for the past year, but yeah, I've kind of worked my way up really to the job that I do now. So I do all the in-house bookings. We kind of majority of our bookings are in-house actually at the Boileroom. So I kind of do that. I do a lot of the mentoring. So handling work experience placements, internships, that sort of thing. Managing staff and rotors and all that kind of thing. And I suppose, like the booking. So there's the sort of logistical side to that, to the fun stuff, finding new bands and things like that. So yeah, real mixed bag. I think like most venue sort of employees, like a little bit of everything.
Because on your Facebook page it says doer of things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like to keep it broad, and
open to questions.
What I've got.
Yeah. Before I ask you some really insightful questions, do you have your TV on?
Do I have my TV on?
Yeah.
Oh,
I can.
No, I actually, my partner is on a Zoom call just in front of us. Actually,
it's completely fine. At one point, I think it became very loud, and I was like, "Oh my god!" But
oh no, I can move. I can move into an upstairs actually, if that's better.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, let me. Yeah, I'll mute this quick so you.
For everyone on the recording, Lydia is currently moving upstairs, in case that wasn't clear.
There we go.
See, that's the part where we would have edited and then just cut. So time would have just been shortened right here.
Wow.
the
magic.
Yeah. No, but that's interesting. I remember you always used to be the one that would like deal with bands like us and kind of like reach out to us about all the different shows and what was happening. Um, yeah, yeah. Well, so how's it been at the Boiler Room? I saw was it in, I think around November time, you guys got the funding that you needed to. I mean, that must have been a bit of a worrying time for you and loads of other venues when that lockdown announcement came out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been a bit of I suppose, a bit of like an emotional kind of roller coaster for everybody. I think because looking back over it now, it's almost sort of the real lack of clarity and then kind of the dawning realization that it's going to be a much longer kind of, process than we'd all thought. I think in March, when we first went into lockdown, we thought, oh, it will be like 3 or 4 months or something. So we were like moving, the diary moved to May or, June. And then we all kind of realized, like, actually, that's not going to happen. And then, yeah, the funding, I mean, that was a real lifeline for everybody. Like, because at the time we were all applying in August. We didn't know that even the furlough would be extended after October. So we were kind of all thinking like, well, we're going to have to start making redundancies or, letting people go, like all our amazing team of staff and things like that. And then obviously, freelance crew are just such a huge part of the live industry, providing sort of lifelines for those guys as well. Was kind of, it was quite a challenge really. And then I think as well, just like the sort of fatigue of constantly moving these shows. It's a bit like Groundhog Day, I think for everybody.
You move it to May and then you move it to June and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's been a year. We managed to actually get a show. It's bizarre. I mean, my birthday was a couple last week. And if you told me in March that my birthday would be in lockdown this year, like, it's bizarre, isn't it?
But yeah,
I don't know. It's weird to think about it when I guess the things that you don't think about so often are kind of the people that are directly affected by it. I mean, like a venue like yourselves, you would think, okay, they may be struggling to stay open to put on shows, but like, what about all the people that, like you say, work for you and all the freelance people, the sound engineers, everything that goes into put on a show, all these people that would just kind of jump on a show. What do they do? It's a really hard bridge to gap, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough, like we have quite a young team. Like I felt, awful. So many, graduating last year and weren't even able to sort of celebrate, or they're about to start their careers in sound engineering. And, I can't imagine what it must feel like for, if you're 19, 20 and being like, yeah, ready to roll, like let's get out and get on tour or what have you. And then they're like, oh, okay. But I think we're trying to kind of, I suppose, work in like adapt to the situation, try and be kind of dynamic and with how we're booking. So like, things are constantly changing and just trying to be flexible with that, so like, for example, like just before Christmas, we managed to book in like, we thought, right, January 2021, we're going to be able to do some socially distant shows. We've got a live streaming rig set up so we can have extra revenue from those live stream tickets, as well as, the minimal, I think it's something like 5% of our usual capacity.
That's what a social distance show is.
Yeah. So it's like pretty tight. It's not quite the same. And, so we were all ready to go with that. We had our Indie Venue Week program booked. We had our Fresh Faces program booked with like emerging like bands at the beginning of January. So like all the kids that come and do our youth music program, the project usually. And then beginning of January, we kind of, came to the realization that, okay, they're not lifting the tier system. Actually, this is getting worse.
Yeah.
Okay, right. What do we do now then? We're not gonna cancel it. That's the last thing, because it's awful cancelling a show at any time, or having to reschedule or what have you. So we kind of just went into overdrive, sort of salvaging what we could. So we did our first live stream gig with a local band called Aqualine, which was fantastic. It was just so much fun, and we have like a live chat running with our streams, and we all had kind of pre-event performance jitters, like, is it going to go well, and feeling that kind of adrenaline again that you get before the doors open, sort of, but virtually this time. And the band were great, and their fans, they were just going mad, and it was almost like you could kind of picture what it would have been like in the actual room, people just enjoying themselves, listening to the music. And it was so nice as well to actually be back in the space doing something again.
Sure. Yeah, it's the best way to stay positive as well, because you're putting a band on in the venue. Yeah, there's no one there, but it's like the closest possible thing we could get, So
totally.
Yeah, I would say, how, as a promoter, someone who works in a venue as well, how important or helpful would you say that socially distanced gigs are? Because you just said that you could only have 5% of your normal capacity. Would you say that going forward, say we couldn't have a full capacity gig until maybe, everyone's guessing now, aren't they? But maybe even after summer, it may seem at the moment. Would you say that socially distanced gigs could work for venues like yourself until then?
Yeah, I think it's hard, I think really, without funding, it's not really financially viable. Because I think we all kind of understand that, we are all in this together, and everyone's been hit financially. It's artists, venue operators, promoters, crew. And when you're strict to I think, we can, the most we could get in socially distanced is 42 people, but that's people in buying tickets in groups of 4. And they have to stay in that 4. And so
That's a bizarre concept by itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
They have to buy tickets as a household.
Yeah.
And then just kind of huddle around the venue in their little group of, that's what that rule implies, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. And anyone's put on events for New Year's Eve, people always go in a group, but getting that group together is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And even,
Sure.
Even if you're in a household, does everyone like the same music? Does everybody? And then again, buying in 4, the ticket price has to be high to make sure that, and for us, for our model, all that, those ticket amount, minus, okay, VAT is at 5% at the moment. Whether they're going to extend that, we don't know yet. And you've got PRS, so the face value goes down, but the rest, that money is going straight to the artist. So the venue's not making any money on this. So if you're charging £15 a ticket, that's like 60 quid plus a booking fee. Someone's got to fork out in one go. That's quite a lot.
Yeah.
Even if you do really want to see someone and support people, you might have lost your job recently. So, it's not, spending on entertainment is kind of the last thing in a time of economic hardship, really.
I think that's what a lot of people sometimes don't comprehend. They'll kind of just go, well, you've got your socially distanced gigs. You guys can survive, surely. You know, you still get to put on shows. And I think a lot of people don't understand the cost that goes into putting on a show, the cost that gets to hiring a decent band for one, you know, and a venue like yours. I guess like the bigger bands may tend to go to bigger capacity venues, so you get that level of band. So to sell tickets for that kind of band and that kind of venue for that kind of money, is like, it wouldn't normally add up. You'd normally have that price at a big event. That's kind of the beauty of that size. You can go to a gig for not too much and see a really good underground grassroots level band. You know, that's the beauty of the Boiler Room, right? But I mean, at this moment in time, socially distanced gigs, there's so many variables to consider. And you've got to pay everyone. You've got to. It's just you're considering too much money that we don't like to consider in music, I guess. You know, we like to just focus on the bands. Oh wait, I think. Oh, look at this for service, Lydia.
Hello, Lydia.
Right. Hi, how you doing, man?
Runner for the day.
Max has just delivered me a coffee for everyone that can't see that.
Enjoy.
Delicious.
Thank you. Where were we?
Yeah, and it's sort of, I mean, something that I, came up quite a bit in January when we were trying to move things about and sort of salvage what we could, is that, again, what people might not have thought about, like majority of like grassroots artists or artists in general, maybe apart from yourselves, don't actually live together. So how on earth are you supposed to practice? Or if you're a teenage age band, you might probably living with mum and dad or, your guardians. And they're like, well, I'm at risk, so you're not going out. So how do you make that work? And, our stage is fairly small. Having a four-member band, playing in each corner, you could kind of distance people, but it just looks really weird.
Yeah, I can kind of imagine it, wouldn't you? The drummer tucked into a corner, guitarist over here. Yeah, and I mean, I've seen you fit some 8-people bands onto that stage before. I mean, that wouldn't be an option now, really, would it? So.
Cram them in. Exactly. Like, it would be quite hard. So, yeah, there's lots of just other little things that kind of just make it, a lot harder to kind of make that work, really. And then
I guess from the outside people could go, well, okay, let's just put the whole music industry on hold. You know what I mean? Speaking hypothetically, let's stop this all. Let's give everyone a bit of money to survive. And then we're like, well, okay, the positives, we're financially okay. Everyone can live, happy days. But like, this is what we do. You know what I mean? There's no output. Like, where do we? How do we live? Some musicians can't go a day without like talking to someone, writing a song, doing all this, blah blah blah. And I think there's more than just a financial difficulty to consider. You know what I mean?
Yeah, massively. I think like for like doing our IVW week, we really, like the series of live streams that we did, we kind of all had quite a serious kind of discussion, like, is it right what we are doing right now? Is it, and are we risking people's health by asking them to come down to the venue and putting this on? Are we, morally, should we be doing this? But then we kind of also felt, well, actually, like, our mental well-being as much as the artist is so important, and this lack of being able to do something constructive and positive and that can actually happen, we realized, like, it was actually really important to keep us all going. And and it was so lovely having people back. Like, I think chatting to like Ben, and I think he said in his stream, like, he didn't realize before, like, as a videographer, like how important it was for him to have that social like contact with people. Like, he's a very friendly, charismatic guy, right? Yeah.
I can't.
He was like
sitting in a house alone, kind of staring at a wall by himself.
yeah, like, oh, and yeah, just kind of realized it was like what a big part of my personality is my job. So I think, you know, obviously we went ahead with it, but we were like, yeah, it's kind of that kind of you know, realized that it's something that we need to do. We've got to do this.
Yeah. Well, I think the great thing about it is that it's helping a multitude of people. I guess if you work in a bank or you work in an office, you go to work and you may be benefiting yourself or not even, and then benefiting a business. But I guess if you're doing that, you're interviewing a band for the venue and for people out there,
Yeah,
everyone's kind of gaining mentally from that, and they can listen to one of their favorite artists or videographers talk about something, and then they can we can see the venue and they can just kind of be like, oh yeah, like it's just good. It's
yeah.
good for everyone, you know. And I think more of that needs to happen. Well, it is happening, to be fair, but I
Mm.
also wonder how many more new video ideas can people come up with? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It almost equates to the real world in a sense. Like everyone's trying to understand the next cool thing. What's this? What's this? And now it's kind of moved onto the internet, and media have been like, right, how can I make my live stream the most interesting possible live stream? And
Totally.
it's tricky in the same way it was in the real world, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. To kind of stand out, and like it's been so much fun to play with this kind of new way of putting on events and like interacting with it. But yeah, we kind of, you know, we got in a load of props and we kind of dressed the stage and sort of, which was really fun to kind of think in that kind of creative way. So yeah, how can we make it a bit more visually appealing for people? And you know, like, well, we did the Never Not Nothing stream. Those guys always have a visual kind of elements, whether they've got their big old monolith on the back of the stage for their larger shows, and you know, there's these kind of sick projections and stuff. But it kind of really came to life over the live stream as well, captured a bit of that energy that you might get in a physical show. But yeah, like it's not everyone can do that. You
It
know.
is true. Yeah, it takes a different kind of band to do that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like I can't see a folk act working in the same way. That might be fun. I
I'll
don't
say it
know.
again. I have
So,
seen some crazy stuff at your place.
yeah, yeah,
Anything
absolutely.
could happen.
Um,
But
yeah, I mean, mm,
I wanted to talk a bit about Guildford.
yeah,
Moving on from the depressing COVID social distancing blah blah blah
absolutely.
chat. Um, I
Yes,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, you said you've nearly worked at the Boileroom for 10 years.
Mm,
So you've been you've seen the Guildford scene, shall we say? And I always
I have.
thought it was weird because obviously we moved there for college, and there was
Yeah,
a time. It may just be a perspective thing because I was there at that time, but there was a time when it really felt like something was actually happening in Guildford. Like, and
mm,
from the outside, people were like, "What goes on in Guildford?" You know, I get it all the time. Whenever I tell people like, "Oh, we formed as a band, we formed in Guildford, we did this," but I'm
yeah.
like, I promise you, it was actually good for a moment. Like, there was a time when I don't know, yeah, there just seemed a lot of things, a lot of bands going on, a lot of venues, and I just wondered like, um, how is it? Explain to the people what you've seen in that time, you know? Like try and
Yeah.
basically aid me. It's good, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, absolutely. I think like it's funny actually. I remember having this kind of chat with my friend Maz, who's so I'm like going to be 33 this year. So just to put some context in, um, so when we were teenagers, you know, it was like the early noughties. Ooh.
Mhm.
So like um, we were kind of he was saying, you know, like there was such a scene around when we were that age, and like you know, does that happen now? And I was like, well, like actually being at the working at the venue for as long as I have, like being very involved, no matter, you know, as I'm still obviously getting older like everyone is, but you kind of see and it is a transient nature, of the place, and I guess as well the music scenes that come and go like that. People, yeah, like yourselves, move to the area for music college or university at Surrey or what have you, and then go on to other places. And that's the same with kind of, I think, there are all these different kind of exciting times in the kind of Guildford's musical heritage. So like, yeah, when you guys were around, and there was Sophie and the Giants as well, and Annabelle Allam, and that was such a cool moment in Guildford's kind of musical history.
Sure.
And it's just a great feeling to see how well you guys are all doing and like progressing. But yeah, when I was a teenager, it was more like kind of math rock or post kind of hardcore. So you had like Meet Me in St. Louis, Frank Turner's old band Million Dead used to come and play quite a lot in the area, and you had that kind of really heavy sort of vibe. But again, those guys moved away from the area, and that kind of tends to happen. I don't know if it's a commuter town thing or
Do you find that like a lot of times when there may be a bit of a scene bubbling, something emerging, that a lot of the bands within that scene just kind of move on or go to a bigger city, or because you find it that when a scene maybe evolves in Manchester or London, those bands are there, they're there to stay. But in somewhere a bit smaller, it might just be like a passing through thing. That might be because of the colleges or whatnot. But do you find that any bands really do stay in Guildford?
Well, actually, I don't know. That's a tough one. Like, I mean, the only part that springs to mind is Howard from the Vapors, like as a band. But I think the lure of like London, Brighton, Bristol,
Yeah.
because obviously we're in the southeast, like they are the three big places to make your name in music. And I think it's like almost like these scenes disperse and go and join the bigger overall scene, because I think it can be hard to do that regionally, or from a regional base. And if you're in London, or Brighton or wherever, you're kind of, it's easier to make connections with people and meet in other areas.
Sure.
Sort of having said that though, like there are a lot of music industry people that live in Guildford. I think it's because like commuter wise, if you're traveling up to London for work every day, you get to maybe the age where you want a family or you want to move out from that hectic lifestyle. So it's almost a place that people come back to when they're a bit more established, because it's got, we've got the nice rural vibe, pubs, and it is quite a wealthy area. That also outprices a lot of struggling artists, or
it's a wealthy area, but it's cheaper to live in than London.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my goodness.
So, but I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you wonder whether it would still have the same. I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say heritage, but I mean the same. If people were to stay in Guildford, I mean, they all the bands that come through, they just go, yeah, we love it here. Let's continue to evolve this scene here. But I guess the issue with that is that you guys are a 250 to 300 cap venue. If they wanted to progress, they're like, oh, they've sold out the Boileroom. They want to go, let's get a massive venue.
Yeah.
Live, like, which is however many thousand. It's like there's nowhere to really go. And I think Guildford needs to like, well, it doesn't need to, but could address maybe that slight issue, and maybe just get another venue that is like I mean, now's obviously not the time for any of this, but do you know what I mean? I think that's maybe the issue that people see. They don't see it as a scene worth trying to evolve, in a sense. But having said that, I do find that a lot of bands that pass through and have lived or been to Guildford, it's always the Boileroom. It's always the Boileroom that's mentioned. and like for a venue in a place that apparently people up here have never even heard of, like it really does have a name, you know. And I think that's definitely something to be very proud of.
Oh, thank you, James. Yeah, well, it's lovely to hear. And kind of try really hard to make people feel at home when they come to us, as artists or as punters. So yeah, I think you're right. Like, I mean, we've always loved the idea of trying to get a bigger space, like somewhere with 2 rooms, so we could still have the 300 or smaller, or and have the bigger space. Because I think you're right. Like, there has to be like a good ecosystem of spaces, like for people to progress and still stay in that area. Like, Kingston, for example, like it's very similar kind of ish to Guildford, in my mind, and they've got like,
doesn't it?
Yes, love that place.
And then I think that's it. Am I right? Is that, it's kind of,
that is like,
yeah.
Like, I suppose, I mean, their kind of venue scene has taken a real battering over the years, and God bless John Tolley for keeping it going. But like how they have their bigger banquet events in Prism, but then before that it was the Hippodrome.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's it, isn't it? That's all they've got. And I was like, no, wait, I've literally been to the Hippodrome twice. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's great. Like, they bring in some huge acts, as well as like those kind of buzzy emerging bands, and then you've got the Fighting Cocks for those much smaller shows. They used to have the Peel as well, which was a fantastic venue that was a bit, I think, similar to our size. I mean, that was years ago now, but they had that 3 or 4 varying size spaces that you could kind of naturally progress to. And obviously, I guess Kingston's even closer to London, so it's quite easy as a base.
For sure.
You can go do your London shows or what have you, but still exist in Kingston and make a good name for yourself, probably.
Guildford definitely has that aspect to it. Like, I've had it even when we played in places like St Albans, like the Horn there, because it's just outside of that big city. It has like an element of escapism to it, and then when you play and then you get a decent amount of people to a show, you're like, where have they come from? They just seem to like come out of the bushes in like all angles. And then they're all just here in this venue that seems to be just a bit away from everything, because it's not too near the station, or it's not on the high street. And I kind of like that. It's like the, what's the one in Tunbridge, Wales?
Yes, the Forum.
Say again.
The Forum.
The Forum. Yeah, I should remember this, really, shouldn't I? But yeah, it's kind of that same idea. And I think that's something that's always been cool about the Boileroom. Sorry, I'm just complimenting you now,
I think like it's like, for me, like, why regional venues like Tunbridge Wells Forum, like the Joiners, and there's so, countless others all over the country, are just so important, because they're like a lifeline for all of those people, young and old, that like it's all those outlying villages, all those places in like the middle of nowhere, and say you're the only one in the village that is into music. And that's the only space that you can go and like enjoy yourself and like meet like-minded people, and it's just so like crucial. Like, I know it was for me when I was growing up. I grew up in Farnham, just down the road, born in Guildford, so like
proper local. You haven't moved on to the heights of London or Brighton. You've stayed put.
I did. Well, I think because I did live in Brighton for a while when I was doing. I had a go at studying a degree. It wasn't for me, but I came back, and I feel like like it's just kind of like I say, I do a lot of the mentoring at the venue, but like people did that for me when I was sort of figuring out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And I met all my best friends at gigs. We just did venue Valentine's. I met most of my partners and my partner now at venue.
really?
Like it's kind of like such an important thing for me. Like we used to go to we call it like the GYC, the Guildford Youth Club, which is where the big Waitrose is opposite the Boileroom now.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was where, and it was lots of like punk shows or ska. Ska was really big.
Yeah.
Or hardcore. It used to be the kind of flavour.
Hardcore has always been big in Guildford, right? It seems
Yeah.
that way to me. Also, you mentioned math rock earlier. It feels like Guildford is one of the only places where like I've gone and everyone's like talking to me about math rock, and I'm like, what is that? I don't have a clue what it is. Yeah, it's interesting, these like little pockets of scenes that pop up in Guildford, really, of all places.
Yeah, totally. And then I suppose, being sort of my family being from this area. So like my mum's used to be a folk artist. She still plays now, but she used to gig around Guildford in the 60s. And like it's funny how like the King's Head pub was always the place to meet, like on Quarry Street, and it's still the pub that everybody hangs out at, like 50 years on or whatever. And like and she was saying, there used to be this place called the Gin Mill Club in Godalming, and it used to be in the 60s and 70s a thing that up and coming artists would play university, like student unions, and that was like a strong circuit.
For sure. That's what my dad was telling me the other day. He was like, bands would do university tours, and I was like, and I was like, I guarantee if they did that now, I have no idea how many people would turn up. If it's like a club next door, they're going to be there. Like, who wants to watch an up and coming band when you're at uni, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I do, but no one else does. Yeah.
Like when 10 o'clock is like an early time to go out for the night, like
right. They're all having pre-drinks.
Yes.
Like, first band on at 7. That's like they haven't even had dinner.
Exactly. It's just not workable. But yeah, like I mean, David Bowie played like twice at Surrey Uni. Like it's just
that's ridiculous, isn't it? To think about. I think Led Zepp played there as well. I might have made that up, but I really do think they did. It's bizarre, isn't it? You look at Surrey Uni, it's like, what's David Bowie doing here?
Yeah.
In Guildford.
Just what a time. Time. So I think there's always been that kind of musical pull around Guildford, and then obviously, having like ACM and and the Tongmeister course at Surrey Uni. It's one of the best like production courses in the UK, so which is fantastic for us because we get some incredible sound engineers from that course.
For sure.
But an incredibly knowledgeable bunch. So
it's funny that you get all the sound engineers not from the music college, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, actually, saying that, we have Beth, who's currently doing our live streaming. She's from ACM, graduated last year. We had Jacob and Spencer as well. Actually, they studied at ACM, so they were shout outs to the front of house crew.
Take the moment. This is like Radio 1. You know what I mean?
I know, right?
To be fair, you had a sound engineer there called Tanya, I think.
Yes.
I went to primary school with her.
Did you?
She did sound at our last show, and I was just like, you went to my primary school? That's so weird. Yeah, shout out to that.
Yes. Yeah, we lost Tanya to London again, another one. But she's amazing. Yeah.
Did she go to uni of?
She was a Tongie, as they're called.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
There we go. But
then-
you know what I love
Yeah.
like about when Tanya and Beth do sound, because it's so rare to have like a woman engineer.
Mm.
You know, you get the classic like, oh, when's the engineer getting here sometimes? And Tanya would just like put them in their place, be like, that's me, and like overwhelm them with her like incredible knowledge base.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, they'd be like, you know, bowing down, like, you're incredible. That was mate. That's the best sound we've ever had. You know, like,
as great as that is, she shouldn't have to overwhelm them with her knowledge base. You know,
no,
she should just
she shouldn't.
be accepted as the sound engineer. But annoyingly, that's the I've had stories from female bands and female sound engineers, you know, like thinking they're a groupie or some group. Like groupies don't exist anymore.
I know.
like they don't exist. And yeah, I mean,
I mean,
2021, man. You know what I mean?
I know. Well, yeah, you're right. It shouldn't happen at all. But I love the fact that she does it, you know, with a smile and has them completely like changing their viewpoints, like complete and perspective on it. Like by the end of the show, they're like, do you do freelance work? Do you do touring? Like, you know, like, oh, I've been a complete idiot.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Trying to just compensate for the rest of the show for being an arsehole.
Exactly.
Brilliant. No, she was great when she did our sound. Yeah, she was brilliant. Yeah, amazing. Where are we? This time has flown. I think we're good. I think we've mentioned everything possible.
Awesome.
We only meant to do these for half an hour, but yeah, here we are. I'm just like, oh, what's the time?
Nice.
It's been lovely talking to you, Lydia.
Yeah, and you.
Is there anything else you want to shout out? What's the Boileroom doing? What's coming next in this virtual world?
I know. Well, yeah, we International Women's Day, 1st and 7th of March. We're going to be putting up another sort of free or donations series. So do come and join us on the internet. And you know, hopefully at some point we'll all be able to go back to live shows, and when it's safe to travel, we would love to see you guys again in real life.
Everyone should go to the Boileroom. It's the best venue in Guildford and the world for that matter. Please go. It means a lot to us. The venue is very sentimental. The band grew up there. Everyone there helped us out. I used to work there really badly. Please go. They have better bar staff now.
No.
Oh yeah. Correct. They're all even worse. Don't go. Anyway, that was a lovely finish. I think we ran that off really well.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks so much, James. And yeah, we'll hopefully see you soon.
Yes. Pleasure talking to you, Lydia.
Yeah.
Have a lovely day.
And you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Adios.